I was chatting with a friend who's just landed a contract to digitize a small batch of museum artifacts, and he was freaking out over whether to drop a few $1,000s on a 3D scanner that promises professional-grade results. He's not a full-time lab tech, but he does need something that can handle both delicate ceramics and a few larger stone pieces without turning his workspace into a laser safety zone. The same dilemma pops up for anyone who's been to a makerspace demo and thought, that looks cool, but can I actually make it work for my hobby projects without spending a fortune on accessories? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The shining 3D EinScan Rigil Lite tries to sit in that sweet spot between a pocket-sized handheld and a full-size industrial rig. It's an all-in-one unit that packs a 17+17 crossed laser line system, a set of 7 parallel blue laser lines, and an infrared VCESL sensor. All that tech lives inside a case that also contains 24 GB of RAM and a 0.5 TB SSD, so you're not tethered to a separate workstation when you're out in the field. That's the headline, but the real question is whether those specs translate into a workflow that feels natural for someone who isn't spending 8 hours a day tweaking parameters. First off, the marker-free claim is a big deal if you've ever tried to scan a glossy object. Traditional scanners often need little specks of spray paint or adhesive markers to give the system something to lock onto, which adds prep time and can ruin a surface. The Rigil Lite uses eye-safe laser patterns that the infrared sensor can read without any stickers, so you can just point, scan, and walk away. In practice, that means you can pull a small wooden figurine off a shelf, turn it around a few times, and get a decent point cloud in under a minute. For a hobbyist who wants to capture a cosplay prop or a DIY designer who needs a quick reference model for 3D printing, that speed-up feels tangible. One of the practical strengths that shows up when you actually use the scanner is the built-in 5MP texture camera. Many handheld scanners give you geometry but leave you hanging when you need realistic color data. With this unit, you can snap a texture shot while you're still holding the device, and the software stitches the color onto the mesh automatically. I tried it on a rusted metal gear and on a bright-colored ceramic mug. The gear's surface details scratches and patina came through clearly, while the mug's glaze retained its glossy look without a separate light box. That level of texture fidelity is a nice bonus if your end goal is a visual presentation rather than just a printable STL. On the downside, the dual scan modes laser and infrared aren't as interchangeable as the marketing suggests. The infrared VCESL sensor shines when you're scanning objects with low reflectivity or in ambient light, but it struggles a bit with highly reflective metals, which end up looking noisy. The laser mode can compensate, but you have to switch manually in the software, and the transition isn't seamless. For a user who expects a just work experience across every material, that extra step can be a hiccup. It's not a deal breaker, but it does mean you'll spend a few minutes learning when to toggle between modes. Another practical point is the outdoor capability. The specs say the unit supports large objects and can be used outside, and that's true in the sense that the laser lines remain visible in daylight and the infrared sensor can still pick up geometry. However, you do need a relatively stable surface to place the device on, or a tripod if you're scanning a sculpture in a park. The built-in storage is generous 512 GB SSD, but the device doesn't have any built-in battery management beyond a standard laptop-type charge. After about 3 to 4 hours of continuous scanning, you'll see the charge dip, which can be inconvenient on a day-long field job unless you bring a power bank that can handle the unit's 15W input. Who should buy the EinScan Rigil Lite? If you're a small business owner who needs to produce quick, color-accurate scans of medium-sized parts, think custom jewelry, product prototypes, or educational artifacts, this scanner gives you a lot of bang for the buck. The integrated computer hardware means you can walk into a client's studio, plug the device into a monitor, and walk away with a mesh and texture in less than an hour. It also makes sense for educators who want to bring 3D scanning into a classroom without lugging around a separate workstation. The all-in-one design cuts down on cables and setup time, which keeps students focused on the learning rather than the tech. Conversely, if you're a professional metrologist who needs micron-level accuracy for reverse engineering aerospace components, the Rigil Lite will feel a step down from dedicated industrial rigs. Its laser line density is good for most hobby and small shop applications, but it doesn't hit the sub-0.1 mm precision that high-end scanners advertise. Likewise, anyone who expects a truly set-and-forget device for